So let's start this lecture with the basic steps in crime scene investigation. First one is recognition. Recognize. Involves the efforts of identifying data, including physical things that may provide relevant information regarding the criminal case being investigated. So sa recognition, nahanap ka ng mga ebidensya na malamang may connection doon sa krimen. So if the case is homicide, na kung saan yung biktima ay binaril. Ano ba yung mga ebidensya na related doon? Baka merong baril, di ba? Baka merong basyo, baka merong bala. Yung mga yan, hahanapin mo. Okay? You identify the data first. Kung ano yung mga pieces of evidence na kukunin mo mula doon sa crime scene. Recognize first. And then the next one, after recognizing the pieces of evidence that needs to be collected during the crime scene, that is needed for the investigation of the case, the next step is to collect the pieces of evidence. This refers to the act of gathering those identified data, yung mga na-recognize mong data, kokolektahin mo na sila. Or facts, or physical things that are significant to the case under investigation. Again, you will only collect pieces of evidence that are significant to the case. Baka may nakita kang plancha doon, kinuha mo. May nakita kang pakabayo, kinolekta mo. May nakita kang pusa na gumaganon, baka kinolekta mo yon. Wag na. Kung wala namang connect doon sa krimen, wag mo nang kukunin. Hindi mo talaga dapat kunin. Okay, maliban na lang, for example, natalsikan ng dugo. O yun, kukolektahin mo yun. Okay, and then the third one is preservation. This includes act of keeping the collected evidence in their true and original state for preventing contamination or destruction of its substantive value. Hindi ka lang kasi basta-basta nagko-collect, pine-preserve mo rin sila. Yung pinaglalagyan mo na bag ng ebidensya, dapat tamang uri ng bag yun. Kasi hindi lahat pwede mong ilagay sa ziplock. Hindi lahat pwede mong ilagay sa brown bag. Hindi lahat pwede mong ilagay sa paper packet, sa tin can. Depende yan. Okay? So that's part of preservation of evidence. And then we have evaluation, the process of determining the probative value of the evidence. Probative, 'di ba? From the term probe, investigation. Ini-evaluate mo, dine-determine mo, gaano kaya kahalaga itong ebidensya na to. Kaya mo siya ini-evaluate kasi gagamitin mo siya sa court, 'di ba? Gagamitin mo siya during the course of your investigation. And connected yan doon sa number 5. Yun ang presentation. So it is the function that is primarily manifested inside the courtroom. Ipe-present na yung mga ebidensyang kinolekta mo doon sa korte. Okay, next. Cardinal points of investigation. Madali lang to. 5 W's and 1 H. Who, what, when, where, how, why. 5 wives, 1 husband. So, who? Pag sinabing who, ang sagot dito ay tao. Sino-sino yung mga tao na to? Identity of the victims, identity of the offended party, the name of the suspect, name of accomplices, accessories, and even witnesses to the crime. Identify mo sila. Itong mga taong to, that will answer your who. Okay, next is what. So the purpose of these types of questions is to find out what happened or what took place before, during, and immediately after the commission of the offense. Anong nangyari? Anong nangyari bago ang krimen at pagkatapos ng krimen? Basta anong nangyari, that answers your what. Then we have where. These are questions that localize the place of the incident. Saan nangyari ang krimen? Saang syudad? Saang municipality? Saang district? Saang barangay? Saang street or road? The name of the house or the building. Where questions are necessary in specifically pinpointing the particular location of the crime scene. Kasi pwede rin na hindi lang isa ang crime scene. Dalawa ang crime scene, baka nilipat yung bangkay. Kailangan masagot mo rin yung tanong na yon. Saan nanggaling yung biktima? Saan siya pinatay? Saan siya dinala? And then when questions. These are questions needed to determine and fix the time, day, month, year the crime was committed. Kailan nangyari? Kailangan yung specific time, specific date. Then why? This answers the motive of the crime. These are questions that endeavor to ascertain the motives, causes, antecedents, previous incidents, related facts, background occurrences that might help explain the commission of the offense. Bakit ginawa ang krimen? And then how? Papaano ginawa ang krimen? These are designed to help the investigator determine how the crime was committed. The means or tools are employed, the crime was discovered, and the culprit enters the building or room. Papaano ginawa ang krimen, papaano pinatay ang biktima, papaano ginamit ang tools na ito. Kasi yung martilyo, baka hindi naman ginamit pampukpok ng pako. Baka ginamit siya pangpukpok ng iba pang bagay, 'di ba? Papaano siya pumasok doon sa building, papaano siya pumasok doon sa bahay nung ginawa niya yung krimen. So those are your how questions. Again, that is the 6 cardinal points of investigation. And then we have informant versus informer. Hindi lang spelling ang pagkakaiba niyan. Magkaiba ang ibig sabihin niyan. Basically, nagkakaiba sila sa motivation and relationship with law enforcement. Ang informant at ang informer. So, let's dive in. Pag sinabing informer, ang primary motivation niya is reward or self-interest. Historically and often in a more colloquial or even slightly pejorative sense, an informer is someone who provides information typically about criminal activity in exchange for monetary reward, leniency, or some other personal benefit. Okay, so kumbaga nagbibigay siya ng impormasyon kasi meron siyang makukuhang reward. For example, nagbigay ng pabuya ang mayor para sa whereabouts or para sa kahit sinong makapagbibigay ng impormasyon tungkol doon sa suspect. At kapag ikaw nakapagbigay ka ng information tungkol doon sa suspect kung nasaan siya, then you will be rewarded and you will be considered an informer. Okay, historical context, ito alam niyo to. This term is strongly associated with the parliamentary reward system where individuals were paid bounties for bringing criminals to justice. Kung maalala ninyo, ang parliamentary reward, di ba merong informer? Yung informer na yon, yun yung magsasabi sa government kung nasaan ang criminal. Tapos yung mga thief takers, sila ang kukuha ng kriminal based doon sa information na binigay mo kung ikaw yung informer. Then makakakuha ka ng parliamentary reward. So ang connotation sa informer is that they can sometimes carry a negative connotation, implying someone who squeals or rats out others for personal gain rather than out of civic duty. Kumbaga, squealer ka, rat ka, nagbibigay ka ng impormasyon sa mga pulis. Yan ang negative connotation sa kanila. And then, ang relationship naman nila sa pulis is that it might be transactional, driven by the specific benefit they seek for the information provided. Kasi nga, merong kapalit kapag nagbigay sila ng information. And then we have informant or confidential informant, CI, confidential informant. Informant is a broader and more formal term commonly used in law enforcement. It refers to any individual who provides useful and credible information to a law enforcement agency regarding criminal activities. So may iba't ibang dahilan kung bakit nagiging informant ang isang tao. So while financial reward or leniency can certainly be a motivation for an informant, other motivations include civic duty or conscience. Feeling niya kailangan niyang sabihin ang totoo. Kailangan niyang sabihin ang impormasyon na nalalaman niya. A genuine desire to help law enforcement and society. So fear or self-preservation. Fear of harm from criminals dahil takot siya na baka siya ang sunod na sasaktan ng mga kriminal. Siya ay nagsumbong na. Nagbigay na siya ng information sa police. Or a desire to avoid arrest or harsher penalties for their own crimes. Takot siya dahil baka involved siya doon sa crime, nagsumbong na siya para maging mas lenient sa kanya. Kumbaga may consideration sa kanya. And then revenge, seeking retribution against rivals or associates. Gusto niya maghigante. Self-aggrandizement, enjoying the feeling of being in the know and surprising police with information. Kumbaga gusto niya yung feeling na, ako, alam ko tong bagay na to. Kayo, hindi nyo to alam. Kaya siya nagsasabi sa police na parang pinamumukha niya sa police, kayo, hindi nyo alam yan. Ako, alam ko yan. So there are different types of informants. First one is confidential informant. Someone who provides information about past or future crimes but wants to remain anonymous. Their identity is protected by law enforcement due to the risks involved. CIs are often individuals with connections to criminal organization. So basically, ito ay mga tao na miyembro nung organization. For example, merong isang criminal organization. Yung isang member nun, kukunin ng police, gagawin niyang CI, confidential informant. Tapos, etong CI na to, member pa rin siya nitong organization. Pero kung ano yung mga impormasyon na nakakalap niya dito sa organization, dinadala niya rin sa police. Citizen informant, an ordinary citizen who witnesses a crime or has information and reports it to the police, typically without any expectation of reward or involvement in criminal activity themselves. Their information is generally considered highly reliable. Kumbaga, citizen informant, member lang ng community, member ng citizenry. Nagpunta sa police station, sinabi niya kung ano yung nakita niyang crime. Walang kapalit yan. Basta feeling niya lang kailangan niyang sabihin. Yun. Citizen informant. Then we have voluntary informant, someone who freely provides information as a witness to an event. So parang same lang sila doon sa citizen informant. Pero pag voluntary informant ka, walang pumilit talaga sa'yo. Kusang loob kang nagpunta sa police station at sinabi kung ano yung na-witness mo. Accidental informant, someone who unintentionally shares information. Kumbaga, hindi naman talaga siya privy doon sa crime, pero meron siyang information na nalalaman. Tapos, kumbaga parang think of it as casual conversation lang. Tapos may nabanggit siya. Tapos na-realize nung kausap niya na, information pala yan tungkol doon sa krimen. So that's an accidental informant. And then we have recruited informant from the term itself, recruited. Nirecruit siya, kinuha siya. A person specifically cultivated and developed by law enforcement as a reliable, ongoing source of information. Kinuha siya ng gobyerno, tinalaga siya, inappoint siya as an informant for the government. And then ang relationship ng informant with the police is, especially a confidential or recruited one, is often ongoing and managed carefully by law enforcement officers who provide direction and ensure the informant's safety, of course, within limits. The golden rule in criminal investigation. So this is particularly at the crime scene. This refers to a fundamental principle that guides the initial actions of investigators to preserve the integrity of the evidence. Ang summary niyan, do not touch, alter, move, or transfer any object at the crime scene unless it is properly marked, measured, sketched, and or photographed. In other words, bago ka mag-touch, mag-alter, mag-move, mag-transfer ng kahit anong bagay mula sa crime scene, kailangan na mark, na measure, na sketch at na picturean na muna yung piece of evidence na yon. Okay, wala kang pwedeng galawin hanggat hindi sila napipicturean, hanggat hindi na i-sketch yung buong crime scene. So this is sometimes referred to as the MAC rule, mutilate, alter, contaminate, or the Hans Gross golden rule. So Hans Gross is considered as the father of criminalistics. So bakit mahalaga itong golden rule? First reason is because of preservation of evidence. The primary goal is to prevent the destruction, alteration, or contamination of physical evidence. Every contact at the crime scene can potentially add or remove material which can compromise the investigation. Kapag kasi hindi na preserve ng maayos ang crime scene, yun na nga, baka masira yung ebidensya, baka mabago yung ebidensya, at saka baka makontaminate yung evidence. And kapag nangyari yung mga yon, there is a big chance, a big possibility na hindi natatanggapin sa court yung pieces of evidence na yon. Especially kung ako yung lawyer, di ba? Kukontrahin ko lang, yan, contaminated evidence na yan, hindi natin pwedeng gamitin yan. Hindi na yan reliable, di ba? And then maintaining admissibility is another reason. Evidence that has been improperly handled or documented can be challenged in court by defense attorneys, potentially leading to its exclusion and weakening the prosecution's case. Kasi nga, kapag nasira ang evidence, katulad nung nabanggit natin, baka hindi na siya tanggapin sa korte. Hindi na siya maging admissible sa court. And kapag hindi na naging admissible sa court ang evidence, then hihina yung case ng prosecution kasi sila naman talaga nagbibigay ng evidence, di ba? And then, accurate reconstruction. If you have followed the golden rule, then you will be able to conduct an accurate reconstruction of the crime. So proper documentation of the original position of evidence allows investigators to accurately reconstruct the crime scene and understand the sequence of events. Moving an item before it's documented can make it impossible to determine its original context. And then avoiding misinterpretation. The original location and condition of evidence are vital for drawing accurate conclusions. Any unauthorized movement can lead to misinterpretations or false leads. For example, merong nag-commit ng suicide and ang position ng kamay niya is loose doon sa baril. Usually, kapag ganon, nilagay na lang yung baril doon sa kamay. Hindi siya ang bumaril sa sarili niya. Kasi we have what we call cadaveric spasm. And if you are the one who committed suicide through gunshot, then malamang yung kamay mo, di ba, pinol mo yung trigger na ganyan, then yung kamay mo malamang nakagrasp doon sa baril. And kung yung position ng kamay mo is nakaganyan, then malamang hindi niya binaril yung sarili niya. So yun, magkakaroon ng ibang interpretation base lang dun sa posisyon ng kamay kapag ganun yung case. Okay. And then we have accountability. Following this rule ensures that the investigative process is systematic, transparent, and defensible in court. Kumbaga, kapag nasunod itong golden rule, mapatutunayan natin sa korte na tama lahat ng procedure, tama lahat ng paraan sa pag-conduct ng crime scene investigation and ng actual criminal investigation. Last for today is the classification of information and documents. Ang mga documents, may iba't iba silang classification sa security level nila. So, the classification of information and documents in a criminal investigation is crucial for several reasons. Managing access, ensuring security, maintaining legal integrity, and streamlining the investigative process. So this classification can occur along several dimensions. First one is by sensitivity or security level. Ito yung information security classification. Kasi kinaklasify ang information kung gaano ba sila ka-confidential. May mga tawag sa kanila. So this classification determines who can access the information and how it must be protected. Kasi hindi porket merong information ang pulis, lahat ng pulis pwedeng magkaroon ng access doon sa information na yon. Depende na yan sa security level nila. So common levels include, first one is top secret or highly restricted. Unauthorized disclosure of a top secret document would cause exceptionally grave damage to national security, public safety, or ongoing critical operations. So, ang example nito is high-level intelligence on terrorist plots, sensitive undercover operations, and classified national defense plans. So, usually, ang mga top secret ay yung mga matters involving national defense. So, how do you handle top secret documents? They have extremely limited access, strict need-to-know basis, highly secure storage and transmission protocols. Again, hindi porket pulis ka, magkakaroon ka ng access sa mga ganitong uri ng documents. Kailangan meron kang mataas na security clearance bago ka magkaroon ng access sa ganito. And kahit na mataas ang security clearance mo, need to know basis din ito. Kung wala ka namang connect dito sa information na to o dito sa case na to, then hindi mo rin kailangan malaman. Number 2 is secret or confidential. Unauthorized disclosure would cause serious damage to national security, law enforcement operations, or significant harm to individuals such as mga witnesses and informants. So, ang example nito is detailed investigative strategies, identities of confidential informants, sensitive personal data of victims or suspects, and ongoing major case files. This is handled through having limited access to the documents, secure storage, and encrypted transmission. Then we have restricted or internal use only. So, ang impact nito is unauthorized disclosure could cause undesirable effects, minor financial loss, or administrative inconvenience but not grave harm. Examples nito, internal memos, preliminary investigation reports, internal policy documents, personnel records, non-public operational procedures. And then, this is handled through having access limited to authorized personnel within the organization lang. Typically not shared outside without specific approval. And then we have official, unclassified, or public. Information intended for public release or whose disclosure would cause no significant harm. Kumbaga, wala naman talagang malaking issue kung makikita ito ng ibang tao. Examples nito ay press releases, general crime statistics, public advisories, declassified documents, mga dating classified pero di-classify na, hindi na siya classified, basic incident reports. Basta na redact na yung mga sensitive na information. And then, no special protection required beyond general good practice lang. Kumbaga, tamang lagay lang sa folder, lagay mo sa isang filing cabinet, wala namang special way of handling these documents. Basta maayos lang siya doon sa opisina. And then, isa pang classification of information and documents by legal legal or evidentiary status. So this classification relates to how the information or document can be used in legal proceedings. The first one is evidence. So any information or object that tends to prove or disprove a fact and issue in a legal case. So merong iba't ibang types ng evidence. We have physical evidence or real evidence or object evidence. These are tangible objects found at a crime scene or related to the crime. Basta bagay na nahahawakan. These are considered as physical evidence. Testimonial evidence. These are statements made by witnesses, victims, or suspects. Mga sinabi ng mga taong to. Testimonial evidence yon. Documentary evidence are documents that convey information. For example, crime scene reports, medical records, financial statements, digital communications. Then we also have demonstrative evidence. Although sa iba nyong subjects, baka hindi nyo ma-encounter ang demonstrative evidence kasi ang usual lang talaga is yung DOT, documentary, object or physical, and T, testimonial evidence. But anyway, andito siya. Demonstrative evidence aids to illustrate or explain other pieces of evidence such as maps, diagrams, and models. So, classification criteria dito, admissibility, whether it can be presented in court, relevance, authenticity, and proper chain of custody. Then the second one under legal or evidentiary status ay privileged information. Information that is legally protected from disclosure in court, even if relevant to the case due to a special relationship. Okay, pag sinabing privileged information, ito ay mga pag-uusap ng abogado at ng kanyang kliyente, ng pare or ng pastor at ng kanyang confessee. Kasi diba, specifically for Roman Catholics, nagko-confess sa priest. So, yung confession niya, kunyari, nag-confess siya na meron po akong pinatay. Hindi pwedeng tawagin yung pare at sabihin, ano yung sinabi sa'yo nung confessee mo? Hindi pwede. Okay, because that's privileged information. What else? Doctor and yung kanyang patient, lahat ng information, that's privilege. Hindi yan pwedeng basta-basta ipakita sa korte. And then, spousal privilege. Ito yung sa mag-asawa. Hindi required na mag-testify ang asawa laban sa kanyang asawa. Kung ano man yung sinabi ng asawa niya dito sa kanyang asawa ay hindi required na sabihin sa korte kasi part yan ng spousal privilege. And sometimes informant privilege. Kung ano yung sinabi ng confidential informant. This is handled through strict confidentiality and non-disclosure. The number 3 is public records, documents created or received by a government agency in the course of public business, generally accessible to the public unless specifically exempted by law. Examples nito, police blotters, arrest records, and court filings. And then third, classification of information and documents by document type or purpose as seen in police reports. Yung una, initial or preliminary reports. Ito yung mga spot report, incident report. These are brief and immediate notification and it details initial accounts of an event of a crime. Then second type, investigative report. So ang examples nito, investigation report, progress report, and final report. So kung ano yung mga napag-alaman nila during the course of the investigation, mga update sa investigation and yung conclusion doon sa investigation, lahat yan pasok sa investigative reports. And then lastly, number 3 ay supporting documents or exhibits. So we have witness statements. From the term itself, ito yung mga statement ng mga witness, mga recorded accounts nila. Suspect statements or confessions, recorded interviews or written confessions nung kanilang suspect. Evidence logs or custody records, documentation of collected evidence. Then we have forensic reports, photographs, videos, audio recordings, diagrams or sketches, search warrants, and arrest warrants. Those are the classification of information and documents. That's it for this video. Stay tuned for the next. Bye!